Do you want to get a cybersecurity job in just 4 months? Well, in this video, I'm going to share 9 steps that I use to help Natasha do just that. Hi, my name's AJ, and on this channel, we teach all things cybersecurity for beginners. So let's get into it. First up then, Natasha built her IT and networking foundations. The way that she did that was through a help desk role. She was working as an IT administrator for 1 year. So this helped her build up those really good IT and networking foundations, because ultimately cybersecurity is about protecting networks. So you do need that good foundations in networking to understand what you're actually protecting. Now, if you don't have those foundations yet, a great certification is something like the CompTIA Network Plus. So this is a really good certification. Sometimes it can be a little bit off-putting because it goes really in-depth into networking, and sometimes a lot of what you learn in Network Plus isn't always used day-to-day as a cybersecurity professional, but nonetheless you still need to get those good foundations. So do persevere and try to get something like the CompTIA Network Plus, or at least go through the content so you can get familiar with the networking foundations. Maybe you're going through a IT degree or a cybersecurity degree. That's a good way to start building up those IT and networking foundations. Often in cybersecurity degrees and IT degrees, you will have some networking foundations, but obviously the degrees are much more expensive these days. I probably would recommend going down the CompTIA Network Plus route, but if you already have gone down the certification route, or if you've already gone down the help desk route, then that will also benefit you as well. So next up then, build your cybersecurity foundations. The only place to really look here is to look at CompTIA Security Plus. It's a really broad certification. It doesn't niche down or look at specific jobs, but ultimately it does give you a really solid foundation in cybersecurity. So I do recommend doing this. Recently gone through some of the latest content, and it is really good to help build those fundamentals, but ultimately it isn't the most tailored towards any specific job. But that doesn't really matter, because a lot of companies do ask for CompTIA Security Plus as a minimum. So you're better off just going straight to this certification, getting it under your belt and getting it on your resume and your CV. And then you're going to be able to say that you've actually got some good, solid cybersecurity foundations. And this is something that Natasha built throughout her help desk role, where she was ultimately actually doing some kind of basic cybersecurity tasks as well. She was able to build up her cybersecurity foundations and her networking foundations through her day-to-day job. Like yourself, if you're not in a IT role, you're not doing any kind of cybersecurity tasks on a daily basis, look at the CompTIA Security Plus. Thirdly then, we help Natasha just pick a job and master the skills. So ultimately then, when you're trying to start out, everybody wants to go into penetration testing, they want to be an ethical hacker, or some people don't actually know what they want to do. And by not knowing what you want to do, it's just going to get you trying to learn absolutely everything in cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is such a broad term that if you're going to try and learn everything, you're just going to get overwhelmed and you're just going to give up. So pick a specific job and master those skills only. Now, the easiest job to go in for, the more entry-level role, it's not completely entry-level because you do need some skills and experience, but is that of a cybersecurity analyst. It's personally where I started 9 years ago, and it's personally where I'm helping more people get into these days due to its more entry-level nature. So what does a cybersecurity analyst need to learn? So first of all, there's SIEM. So this stands for Security Information Event Management, and this is a tool that all cybersecurity analysts are using. So just to give you a high-level overview, imagine a network. On that network, you have servers, laptops, firewalls. Any kind of device on that network will generate some type of log. Those logs are sent to a SIEM. So one of the most popular SIEMs these days is a cloud-based SIEM, and that's Microsoft Sentinel. You also have Splunk. You also have Elastic SIEM as well. They all do the same sort of thing. So just trying to master one will allow you to master them all. But a SIEM will have a set of rules, often called correlation rules, and these rules then are looking for malicious activity in those logs. If it detects malicious activity, an alert will be generated to you as the analyst, and it'll be up to you then to actually review that alert, potentially escalate it as an active cyber attack or an active incident, or close it out as a false positive and improve the rule. And false positive just means that the rule has incorrectly fired and it's something that is not considered malicious, and then that rule needs to be improved so that we can make sure that the SIEM is only generating alerts that we actively need to respond to and could be an active indicator of an actual attack. So you definitely need to learn about SIEM. Then you want to start to learn about incident response. So the great SANS and the SANS incident response plan is something that most companies are using these days. And the SANS incident response plan details the steps that you need to take during an active incident, how to actually prepare for an incident, and then how to identify it, all the way to actually recovering from that incident and learning lessons. So you want to start to understand the different phases. Then within each one of these phases, it's going to give you the steps that you need to take to successfully achieve that step. So how to identify, how to contain, for example. You need to start to understand the steps within each step, which is going to ultimately allow you to actually actively respond to an active cyber attack or incident that is ongoing. So this is hugely important when trying to respond, because ultimately if an alert comes in, and it does need to be escalated as an active cyber attack or incident, most companies will be following this incident response plan to ultimately be able to try and respond to that incident as quickly as possible to actually protect the company. So next up then, cloud attack and defense. So you want to understand how attackers are attacking the cloud, how to defend against it. And the Great MITRE ATT&CK framework, as you can see here, they've got this cloud matrix, and within this cloud matrix is detailing the steps that an attacker will take when they're trying to compromise cloud infrastructure or cloud applications. Then within each one of those steps, you actually have a specific technique. So you want to start to understand some of these different techniques. You want to start to think like an attacker, this is going to help you do that. And ultimately, you don't need to learn every single one of these. You just want to have a good understanding of how an attacker could compromise a cloud platform and ultimately how to actually defend against it. So what you can see here then, this is going to tell you exactly about the technique and most importantly, how to mitigate it and detect it. This is what companies are looking for from you. For example, you could get asked in an interview, name a particular persistence technique that an attacker could use in the cloud. Then you've got this list here to be able to pull from, and then you want to think about how you can detect it and actually how to actually mitigate it as well. So this is a really good matrix for that. Next up then, attack types and defense techniques. So you want to understand the latest attacks that are out there and the most common defense techniques. So your phishing campaigns, malware-based attacks, network-based attacks. And again, the MITRE ATT&CK framework can help with this as well. As you can see here, this is broken down into Windows, Mac OS, Linux, network devices. Again, this is going to tell you the steps that an attacker will take, and then ultimately the specific techniques. So initial access, phishing is something that we all know about, but do you understand how to actually mitigate it and detect it? This is going to tell you all about the technique. It's going to give you some real-world examples of where this has been used by actual threat actors, and then how to actually mitigate it and detect it. So you need to start to understand the latest attacks that are out there, the most common attacks that are out there, to be able to then say that you know how to actually detect these and actually mitigate them. Then you want to look into detection rules. So like I mentioned in SIEM, when you start looking into a particular SIEM, you start looking into the correlation rules or into the detection rules, and it's going to actually tell you and help you understand how that rule is trying to detect that malicious activity. And being able to read these rules is hugely important because it can ultimately help you confirm if the rule has triggered correctly and if the activity you're actually looking at is malicious. Then you want to look into threat intelligence and threat hunting. So threat intelligence is just using open source information to try and understand the latest attacker techniques. So once we've got that specific intelligence, so maybe a company in the finance sector will want to know how threat actors are targeting companies in the finance sector. And once you've got that intelligence and that information, you'll usually be performing threat hunting, which is actively searching across the customer's network to try and figure out if there is an active attack in that network. And usually that is informed by the threat intelligence that we've gathered. So you could see a SIEM as more as a kind of passive detection, and then the threat hunting then more as a kind of active searching for a particular threat inside a network. So these two usually go hand in hand. Then analysis tooling then, so SIEM being the major one, but any other network device that you can think of that sits on a network that can help a cybersecurity professional detect malicious activity. These are the kind of things that you want to start to understand, and CompTIA Security Plus is going to give you a good understanding of that anyway. And finally then, customer service. So you're probably thinking, why is this on here? Well, starting out, often the best companies to try and go for are managed security service companies. And these companies usually have a lower barrier of entry. So they're usually the easier companies to get started with. And you're probably thinking, will I have to deal with customers? Well, yes, because they might have a lower barrier of entry, but it does mean that you're usually speaking with customers on a daily basis. And the main tip that you want to be taking away from here is just detail the more kind of complex technical issues in a simplified way. If you're able to do that, the customers are going to be very happy, and then you're going to be able to actually provide excellent customer service to these cybersecurity companies and other cybersecurity professionals as well. So once you pick the job, pull out the basic skills that you need to learn, and then that ultimately is going to help you push towards the specific role that you're actually looking for. So next up then, step 4, create paper experience. So you're probably wondering, how can I create experience out of thin air? So it's not impossible, but what you could do, so is there a local business, maybe a small business in your local area, in the town that you're living, even in the city that you're living, that needs help with setting up PCs? Do they need help with installing antivirus or certain security controls? Now you're probably thinking, why would a small company allow me to do this? Well, I'm on about companies that maybe only have 1 or 2 PCs. You can go into these companies, do it for absolutely free, and just say, look, I'm trying to get some experience in cybersecurity. Can I add this to my resume? And this kind of stuff you can add to your resume as possible consultancy. You want to make sure you know what you're doing. You don't want to cause any disruption to the small business or any business that you work with. But these are the kind of things you want to try to do to create experience. And these are the kind of experiences that you can draw from in actual interviews, so they can see that you're actually somebody that takes initiative. It may actually work out that maybe this is a business that you want to create yourself and you want to work with small businesses to do this. But if you do want to get your foot in the door with a cybersecurity job and actually get experience, try to add this to your CV and your resume. Try and work with some small businesses, provide some basic tech support, because ultimately this is going to increase your chances of actually being flagged up by these application tracking tools and by recruiters who are looking for maybe an IT professional or a entry-level cybersecurity position. And you'll be somebody who's got all of the required certifications, you've got the skills, and you've got some experience from working with a small business. So step 5 then, you want to actually build your own portfolio. It can be on GitHub, it can be in Google Docs, whichever is for you. This is an example of one of the students that I've worked with who have built a fantastic GitHub portfolio. This is their kind of main interface where they can click through into the different projects. As you can see here, got a description of the project and the skills and tools that they've learned. So all of the projects as well need to relate to each one of your areas. By that I mean the actual skill area for the particular job that you're going for. So setting up your own SIEM at home, maybe doing some instant response tabletop exercises, maybe even setting up your own AWS account and attacking it and actually creating defenses with things like CloudTrail, Guard Duty. These are the kind of things that you want to actually try out. I've actually got projects on setting up your own SIEM, actually setting up your own AWS account, attacking it, and actually detecting it, just like a cybersecurity professional would do on this channel. So you can check out more of my videos that show you some of these projects. But ultimately, to get experience, each one of your projects needs to relate to each one of these areas. And if you can do that, that's where you're going to be able to apply for these jobs that are asking for 1 to 3 years worth of experience, just like we did with Natasha. Like I said, Natasha had 0 experience, but she built her experience through this portfolio, and this portfolio then is something that allowed her to consistently apply for jobs and ultimately land the job that she'd always dreamed of. So make sure your projects relate to the actual job. Step 6 then, you need to be crafting a killer resume or CV. So this is one that has actually been working really well for the people that I've been working with. So it's hard to know which resumes are working best these days, but based on our research and through the students that I've been working with, this seems to be one that is working really well. So it has your experience at the top, where you've previously worked at, any work experience that you've done before. Then most importantly, you've got your projects. So each of the projects that I mentioned in the GitHub, reference in here what you've actually done. And you need to make sure that every job that you're applying for, you tailor the resume or CV to each one of those applications. Every single one, it needs to be tailored. So if there's, for example, you can see here, tool, I mentioned procedures using SIEM tools like Splunk or Microsoft Sentinel. If you're applying for a job and it says Elastic SIEM, then you want to be putting in Elastic SIEM in here, and you want to be setting up Elastic SIEM at home so you can get that experience and talk about it in the interviews. Each one of these CVs, you really have to do this to increase your chances of being seen by recruiters. Don't just send the same one off because it's going to decrease your chances of actually getting an interview. Make sure you tailor it. And make sure the projects are even tailored to the job itself. Everything needs to be tailored, even the certifications. And a good little trick, if you haven't got any of these certifications yet, you can put things like expected in 2025 or working towards my CompTIA Security Plus. By just having CompTIA Security Plus or any of the certifications that are actually listed in the job description, now you do actually actively have to be working towards them. You don't want to be lying on here, because when they bring it up in the interview and you don't know anything about it, then you're going to look really stupid. Ultimately, the certifications, you want to be working towards them. So if you see any certifications listed, think about working towards those and then listing them on here, saying that you can have them expected, or you actually say that you're just working towards it, because this again is going to help flag it up. And then of course any additional skills and education as well. So this is a resume and CV that has been working well for me in the past and for students that I've been working with. So step 7 then, you want to optimize your LinkedIn profile. Now, I'm no professional on optimizing LinkedIn, but you can do some of the things that I'm going to mention here. So make sure you've got a professional profile photo, background image. Make sure that you're crafting a strong headline so whoever comes to view your profile knows exactly what kind of jobs you're looking for. Write a compelling about section, highlight your story, mention everything that you've done so far. Just make it interesting, make it stand out. Make sure all of your experience and skills are on there. Highlight the certifications related to the jobs that you want to go for. Any projects, so link to your GitHub, for example. You can also request recommendations. So if you have worked with a small business, for example, maybe they can endorse you on there. Join and engage in cybersecurity groups on LinkedIn. Make sure you're using specific keywords. There's a lot that you can do in here, and there's actually a really good video on YouTube here as well. What that does is show you how to create a professional LinkedIn profile, and it was created by HubSpot Marketing. So I'm no expert in this, but I definitely do recommend that you optimize it, watch this video, and make sure that your profile stands out. So next up, you want to be nailing your interview prep. So you want to practice mock interviews with family and friends. You want to try and understand what questions could be asked in the interview. And the best way to do that then is to use something like Grok or ChatGPT. Find any job that you're looking for. So this one here is a cybersecurity analyst job. This one is actually with Google, and this is more of a senior role, but you can do this with any job that you're kind of going for. And then you can come in here and you can say, using this job description, give me a list of possible behavioral and technical questions that I could be asked. So it's going to use this job description to try and come up with possible ideas of questions, and you can even ask it for answers as well. And by doing this, it's going to put you in a better position, because most likely the questions in interviews are either going to come from actually your CV or your resume, so make sure you know that like the back of your hand, and also from the job description itself. They want to be able to understand why you can do the job, how you're able to do the job, and they're going to put you in different scenarios. So the behavioral questions are often scenario based, so describing a situation that you've been in, and then the technical interview questions then could still be more behavioral based, like in terms of scenario based questions, but they're usually more specific, like it's got here, talk through a time where you managed a security incident using the SIEM and EDR tools. This is how you can really try and figure out some of the best questions that could potentially be asked. And last but not least, that is actually step 9, which is hunt jobs like a pro. So when Natasha came to us, we recommended different job websites to go on rather than the well-known ones. So obviously you've got LinkedIn, Indeed, but then there are some cybersecurity related ones like CyberSec Jobs, Dice, Careers in Cybersecurity, InfoSec Jobs, ZipRecruiter. There's a long list of them in here, but just go for different jobs that aren't actively well known. There's even this one called usemassive.com, which is actually more of a kind of an AI tool that actually helps push you through applications. Now, I've got no affiliate with them, but people that I've seen and spoken to have used it, and they have said that it's really good. It obviously does cost some money, so you could start with the free ones first, but your things like Ninja Jobs, Career Builder, just go for cybersecurity related recruitment websites, and it could increase your chances. And also when you're on things like LinkedIn, maybe start making some posts, be a bit more active, reach out to recruiters. Don't just expect them to reach out to you. But yeah, definitely do look into the kind of more popular job websites specifically for cybersecurity job. And finally then, we want you to be like Natasha. The first time I sat down on a call with Natasha, it was clear that she was driven. She had a huge passion for cybersecurity, but ultimately she had no experience. And we actually helped her become a cybersecurity SecOps specialist. So this was actually one above than a cybersecurity analyst, which was really amazing to actually achieve. And it was so great to work alongside her because she was so motivated and so determined to do it. And you must be like this as well. Don't expect it to just happen to you. Don't expect it to just get a job just after one application. You've got to be consistent. You may have to put hundreds of applications in before you even get an interview, but make sure you're learning the exact skills for the job itself and just be consistent. So the main thing is be like Natasha. Don't give up. You just got to be consistent and you will eventually get there. So now then, you know the 9 steps that you need to take to increase your chances of getting a cybersecurity job. Ultimately, you need to build your foundations, understand which job you want to do, and then just be consistent, and eventually you will get there. Now I want to say thank you for watching, and if you want to go and watch the full interview with Natasha where we talk through her full complete story from start to finish, from actually working in IT to working with us to getting a job as a SecOps specialist, you can go and watch this video next. Thank you for watching. I'll see you over there.